All right, this is going to be my reflection memo number three. Um, we had to listen to a podcast from the Ear Hustle podcast. I chose to do episode number 87 of season 11. It's called The Saber-Toothed Cat. It is about Jerry, who was a prison inmate for 46 years. Um, I actually thought this was a really interesting podcast. Uh, it's cool that they interview actual inmates, and this episode in particular was really cool because I thought it was so interesting how Jerry, this inmate, he was so aware of things that had happened and was so detailed in his memories of things that happened 30, 40 years ago. So I thought that was really cool and just interesting. The reporter made a point that they don't have a lot else to remember. They don't have as many memories, which makes sense, but I still thought it was really cool how he was talking about the exact number of shoes and shirts that he had and the type of food they were fed. Um, so I know we're supposed to argue the point or, break down what the argument is, but this obviously wasn't necessarily an argument. They were just interviewing Jerry. So the one thing that I would pose or critique about the podcast itself was that they would cut out from the interview with Jerry and kind of give their own opinion when it came to what Jerry had to say. Um, I didn't really like this because usually I feel like a lot of podcasts they kind of talk all the way through, and a lot of the time the listener is able to judge what's being said for themselves. Some of it was helpful because some of it was like things that I wouldn't understand. They were breaking down basically what he was talking about. So I understand that portion, but um, beside that, yeah, I don't. They kept cutting out and just giving their own opinion, and I think sometimes it's better to just let an interview go through with that. And obviously, there's a lot of editing in that. They probably cut out things that weren't as interesting, but sometimes people want to hear the raw audio. For a question that I was left with after listening to the podcast was how um Jerry said that back in like I think he said in 1976 that they were only allowed to have books in their clothes or possibly a radio in their cell. Um, and the lady that was leading the podcast said that nowadays people actually have TVs in their cell, which I was not aware of. Um, I thought, that to me, I never have seen that in the different shows that I've watched or whatever. But yeah, I guess that interests me that of what prisons do have TVs in their cells and how many prisons have that. It's reflection number three.